The Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for there is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of their righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. We live in a world that there is a lot of chaos, misunderstanding, conflicts, and dispute. The moment we turn on our television, we find that there is a chaos in this world. The news that we hear today are filled with conflicts, war, crime, drugs, racism, hatred, and much more. We cannot find even peace within ourselves. The moment we start our day, we are filled with anxieties, worries. Many of us have debts to pay. Some of us have worries about health, and many others would have various worries. We find that our neighbors today are unknown to us. We do not talk with them. Neither are they willing to associate with us. We no longer know who our own community is. Forget the word neighbor. In society today, we find that leaders have conflict with their members. Nations quarrel among nations. We find corruption in all walks of life. We claim, we finger point, even we try to justify our points of view. Many of our voices are never heard. Can you find peace within yourself? Can you find peace within your church, your community, your ethnic groups, your society, or even within your own country? We find that it is much harder for us to trust anyone today. As a result, we cannot find peace. How do we then go on with our life when there is no peace? We cannot find peace of mind. Neither can we find peace with God. When Adam and Eve gave their first child, Cain, and later on Abel, Cain killed Abel because of jealousy. God asked him, "Where is your brother?" And to Cain's reply, he said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" All of us today are like Cain, ignoring our own brother. We ignore the people around us, and we ask the question, is it my duty? Am I my own brother's keeper? Yes, we are. And it's everyone's responsibility. the responsibility of reconciliation. When Jesus came down to this earth, He came with a ministry of reconciliation, to reconcile between God and man, and between man and God. We know that the sin entered into this world. There was a disconnect between God and man. And furthermore, man among men also further disconnected. We live in a society that is filled of technology. We are advanced with our social medias. We are advanced in our information. But is that bringing us any closer? Despite of its advancement, we drift away. Our points of view matters more than another person's point of view. We do not listen. We do not reconcile. In fact, there is no peace. Likewise, we find that there is a conflict even within families. Among families, we quarrel, we debate. The moment we step out of our own home, there is even a conflict between siblings. We find in the news that crime occurs a lot at home. Murder of parenthood, murder of children, murder among siblings, and the society is getting worse. Can you find peace within yourself? Do you learn to forgive and forget? Where is your compassion? Earlier on, we talked about meekness, humility, compassion, and grace. Blessed are those who are meek, those who are humble. But that humility and humbleness draws us further into peacemaking. It becomes meaningless if you do not make peace. Peace within yourself. Can you forgive your own self? Can you forgive the people around you? Starting with yourself. Can you make peace with God? Or do we blame everything on God? We live in a society when things goes well, we say it is because of luck. But when things turn sour and goes down south, we blame it on God. God today becomes a genie in a lamp. A request has to be replied instantly. A prayer must be replied immediately. We no longer wait. Our consciousness of mind is based on our desire. When things does not go according to our own desires or the desires of our own heart, we blame it on God. Even from the ministerial point of view, we do not minister the reflection of Christ. We all desire things that are in our heart. We do not reflect the likeness of Christ. If we make God to be a genie in a lamp, you will never find peace. You can never make peace with God because the primordial focus is not about God becoming a genie in a lamp. But we need to understand the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ, His gospel of reconciliation. He wants us to reconcile. But today, we are filled with anger, hatred, racism. Our laws and our institutions have been framed around these conflicts. It is a lot easier for us to pinpoint at someone today. But it is harder for us to accept that these mistakes all begins because of us. To the religious world, we argue and pinpoint that it is because of sin. But have we reconciled? Have we stepped back and put God first? Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for you will be called the children of God." Are you a peacemaker or a troublemaker? We clearly see when Lucifer tempted Adam and Eve, and he won by making this world a sinful place, a trouble that he has put for humanity. Jesus came down to reconcile, to bring peace, to make this heaven on earth. peace within the spiritual realm, peace among men. But Satan, as a troublemaker, goes around making trouble. How are we reflecting our life? It is a lot easier for ministers to point out that the congregation has a mark, their sheets are dirty, but it is also a duty of a minister to see how are you taking care of life. Are the ministers reflecting the life that the congregation struggles with? Or are they concerned about their positions? Many of the ministerial revival today talks about backsliding of members, lack of members, and most importantly, lack of tithe and offering. Is the church more concerned on the monetary aspect or on the spiritual aspect of the congregation? If your revival and your seminars are based on collection of tithe and offering, you will never grow. But if you focus on reconciliation, healing the members, reconciling, forgiving, you have chance of growing spiritually. God said that if you are a peacemaker, you will be called the children of God. A passive voice which tells us it is a reflection of what we need to do. An action that reflects and shows how we live our life. To be called the children of God. Imagine there are conflict between the ministers, conflicts between congregation and ministers. How would the outside world view you back? Are they going to say that you are a children of Christ? Do you reflect Christ-like nature when there are many conflicts? Ministers today are concerned about ordination. They are concerned about positions, race. Churches are more concerned of collecting tithes and offering. While your members have to go through a lot of worries, anxiety, fear, they have trouble within their heart. What type of counseling do you give? What type of comforts can you bring? It is a lot easier to come up on a Sabbath day and preach for 20 minutes to an hour and go back home. But the reality of life still remains. There's no peace, there's no love, there's no compassion, there's no grace, there's no understanding. Our point of view matters more than what the Bible or the Scripture tells us. When Jesus began His ministry, He laid out these Beatitudes, a foundation of reconciliation. The Beatitude or the seventh Beatitude plays a major role, regardless of how superstitious you are or what your theology says. But if you do not practice what you preach, it is all meaningless. If we see that peacemaking is important, we can know that we could live together as brothers and sisters, different ethnic groups, different status, different social class. Whatever our differences may be, it is true that we can live together if we put Christ as our center focus. Where is your center of focus today? We come to church and wash each other's feet only on the 13th Sabbath. Some churches break bread, drink the wine every Sabbath. Some church does it on the 13th Sabbath. Regardless of how often you do, if you do not reconcile with your heart, there is no peace. We need to learn to make peace within ourselves. Peace with God. Peace with our brothers and our sisters. Making peace is very important. A lot of it could be achieved if there is peace. Do you find that there is peace in your heart? We find in the Bible that nations will rise against nations. As a Christians, what do? The saddest part is many of us who are Christians wants that to happen. Many Christians wants this text to be fulfilled. Like I mentioned, the saddest part, Christians wants to see nations rising against nations. Why? So that you could claim it is a fulfillment of the prophecy. So that you could argue and say that Christ is coming soon. The fact is true. We do not know when Christ will come. We still need to live among our brothers and sisters, among nations, among the differences. We still need to make peace. We still need to make this place as an heaven on earth. But as Christians, we do not make peace. If we only view that nations rising against nation is a consequences of us not making peace and being a peacemaker, perhaps we would approach it differently. It is not too late for us to approach the world, the reality, the neighbors, church, society, and nation at large as a peacemaker, rather than being a troublemaker. Do you know that your worship becomes meaningless if you do not know how to reconcile? What is it that you pray for? How do you pray for the opposition, the bipartisan, the party that you did not vote, the leaders that you do not like? Do you pray for them despite of them not being your choice? It is a lot easier for us to give our point of view. How hard is it for us to pray for them? Many times we go to church and we do not want to talk with the people that do you wrong. And at the same time, we do not want to talk with people that we feel guilty for the wrongs that we have done. This is the fact. A fact that we find in our church. How do we make peace? Are we reconciling? Do you know that your worship becomes meaningless? The songs that you sing, the offerings that you give, the mission trip that you plan, or whatever your goals may be. You could have the finest pew, the best sermons, and the most beautiful song, yet the Lord will not accept your worship if you do not learn how to be a peacemaker, if you do not reconcile with your brother. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 23 and 24 narrates, explains, and tells us that, therefore, if you bring thy gift to the altar, which today is a church, and there remember that thy brother had aught against thee, which means if your brothers or sisters have done wrong against you, leave your gift and offering at the altar and go away. The Lord also tells us that we need to first reconcile with our brothers and sisters and then come back to the church and offer our gifts and offerings. The text clearly tells us that reconciling with our brothers and sisters is more important than your gifts, than your offering, than your forms of worship, or the beautiful pews, or the vast crowd within your church. Regardless of the numbers of your member, reconciling is very important. As a minister, we need to learn to reconcile with our members. We all need to learn how to reconcile among each other. Bring peace within the community. Blessed are the peacemakers, for you will be called the children of God. Many times we are proud of our children performing the finest music, playing the finest sport, winning trophies. And as a father, we want to shout or express and show, this is my child. This is my son. This is my daughter. You are pleased. You are happy. Remember of the moments of their achievement, how much you wanted to boast, how much you wanted to tell your friends or the people that are around you that this is your child. Why did you do that? Or why do you want to do it? It is because of the pride and joy that they brought to you. A reflection to show that they were your child. Likewise, when Jesus comes the second time, and when we stand in front of the throne of God, how wonderful would it be when God tells, this is my beloved son, this is my beloved daughter. The same way when God told Jesus, this is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. For Jesus came down to this world to reconcile for the sins, the wrongdoing. He wanted this world, and He still wants this world to be a better world. Let us be a peacemaker and not a troublemaker, so that we too will be called the children of God. May God bless you with peace. This is my prayer.